Once again, the prodigal sons have returned. It's episode 20, the Bluegrass Race Hub. It's a four-way fight this time. All of us will enter. I think all of us will leave. We've got the HMFIC, Jason, as usual. We've got the most talked about man in Bluegrass iRacing, Keith Hackney. And we've got one of my fiercest rivals in the truck series, Lucas Lyons. We got 2 weeks to cover. Let's do it. All right. This episode of the Bluegrass Race Hub has been brought to you by the Kinder Performance Group of John Kinder, Huffman Designs, Alex Huffman. Be sure and hit him up for your liveries, schemes, whatever you want to call them. Huffy does a great job. In addition to him, Scott Fritz, SF Designs on Facebook. He does the same stuff, equally as talented, both awesome guys. Butt kicker, as I like to say, they'll shake your ass. They add another dimension to sim racing. Red Rocket Buildings and Barbecue. Another thing I like to say, I love buildings, I love barbecue, and they do both of them to the highest level. Elevated outdoors for all of your outdoor needs. WJM Motorsports. These guys are sponsoring guys left and right on iRacing. If you're trying to get in officials, make money, and if you're performing at the top of your game, you need to reach out to Bill Mulfield, and get in touch with those guys. Maybe they can get you set up. Last but not least, NH Lens, Keith Hackney. This man is going to pay $50 if you can pull off the trifecta at Daytona for the regular season finale in Bluegrass iRacing. To follow all of that, next week we have the Double Dash for Cash.
This week, Saturday.
This week. It is this week.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday. 2 races. We're going to Auto Club. We're going to Talladega, back to back. $50 per race per winner. Ultimate payout to the best average finish between both races. That'll be $250. So it's not, don't blow your wad in one race. If you feel that you can be competitive back to back in 2 races, this is the cash race for you. It's not just super speedways. It's not short tracks. We're going to put a couple disciplines together and see how good you truly are.
Yep. And it's a $20 entry fee. Get you into both races. Server opens at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Race will start at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it'll be broadcasted by Peacemaker Gaming.
Peacemaker
Gaming.
I can't wait to hear this dude.
He talks about him a lot. He's hyped him up. Says that he's a really good broadcaster. So we're going to be doing this money race. It's going to be a little different, and you're hearing about it on the podcast. This will be towards the beginning of the podcast, so you're hearing about it now. So make sure if you haven't already got signed up, send it over to the Cash App Bluegrass iRacing. $20 entry fee. Like I said, to get you into both races, and it's $50 winner for both races, and then the best average finish of the race. Of both races will take home $250. So even if you don't win a race but you still finish, P2 in both races, you have the best average finish. You could win $250. Or if you win both races and you have the best average finish, it's $350. It's a $100 extra bonus on top of that. And it's presented by WJM. It's presented by super sponsor man Claude Haggerty, and it's sponsored by Red Rocket Buildings and Barbecue. So make sure. Check in with us. Tomorrow's Friday. The race is on Saturday. This podcast should be live tomorrow, which is Friday. Actually, it's today because it's 2:30 a.m. I'll have it edited and up and ready to go soon. So, all right, guys. On to the good stuff. Like I told him during the race, man, these guys are racing for points. You're just racing down. It's completely uncalled for. Ruined a lot of guys' races that night. They weren't happy. Don't blame them. I mean, it was just one of those things uncalled for. And I have to remind guys, when you race down, up, whatever it may be, you have to remember these other guys are racing for points. While you may be racing for trophy hunting or whatever recognition, they're racing for points, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, and it, like you said, it put a lot of guys in a bad spot. A couple of my teammates got caught up in it, and I heard about it over the radio, obviously. Which leading into it, Bobby was actually P1 at that point. Now that I think about it, he started on the outside, and my plan was to let him clear me so that we had a buffer between our team and the rest of the field. And when people got to us, we were going to play a little defense. And Bobby, he overshot turn one, and I drove underneath him. And then all the chaos ensued behind me, which allowed me to have a real comfortable margin for a very long time.
Yep.
Which where the incident happened, like you said, Bobby did turn down on Alex,
But
but
it was already happening when Alex
yeah,
dove in. Bobby
and
was already turning into the corner, and he was
yep,
arcing the corner to stay off of Peyton. So he didn't think
yeah,
that there was another truck going to pop in at the last second dive bomb.
yeah, exactly. No one really expects too wide is hard enough to do through the S's at Watkins. Me and Peyton pulled it off. I know at least once, maybe a couple times, but to go three wide through to stick your nose in there and go three wide is, I mean, I get that he was putting down the fastest single lap times of anybody, which when someone races down, is a good road course guy. That's kind of what you expect. Um, but that's an instance where you got to be patient because it's probably going to come to you anyways. And two, like you said, there's guys racing for points, trying to make the playoffs, position themselves inside the playoffs, and I don't want to pile on Alex or anything. I think he knows what he did, but it sucked in the moment.
Yep, 100%. So you pulled off the win. How did you feel about that? Go into some
So,
detail on it. Tell us about
so
that.
yeah, so
And we'll hear
there,
from these other two guys. Lucas was
yeah,
there with you, and obviously Keith's got a driver in there. So
yeah, yeah. These are probably the two best other guys to hear from outside of me. Early on, starting the race, we had a strategy that this is I will take credit for when we pitted, and that put us in a good position after the stage. Um, and from there, I honestly, from where I was sitting, like I said, I do like road courses. Watkins is not one of my best ones because it's a very high speed, flowy track. I like the slower, more technical stuff. Bobby had been faster in practice, qualifying, the whole deal. Like I said, he made that one mistake, and that promoted me to the first guy in flex after our strategy. So I had a good buffer behind me that people had to fight through. And eventually Peyton was the guy to emerge from that. I was expecting Alex as well, and like we covered, that ultimately didn't happen. I had a big buffer for a long time, and I knew we're going to split the back the second stage in half, more or less, on tires to maximize your tire wear. I thought I could hold him off for the first portion of it, and I knew that he was faster on pure pace than I was. So I was just trying to take my tires at the right time and maximize what I had. Obviously, there were some weird full course cautions later in the race that I'm sure nobody expected. I know I sure didn't, because I was feeling pretty good because it took him so long to get through the other guys to get to me that I was thinking he probably burned his stuff up beforehand. The cautions kind of equalized it. I got some good restarts and was able to clear him. And a lot of it, I think, was our driving styles at that track were almost polar opposites. He was very hard into corners. I was very slow in and fast off, so vice versa. And what that created a lot of times is Peyton would maybe build a run off of the final turn, and then coming into turn one, I'm slow into turn to build a big drive off, and that would kill his really aggressive drive in on it. And he would have to. There were multiple times, and I know he had to probably check up more than he anticipated, and it kind of threw him out of his rhythm. And then we'd run down the backstretch, go through the bus stop and everything. And by that time, he'd kind of be back to me, and we just do the same thing over and over. He'd get close, and my slow end would slow him up to an extent. And then finally, later in the race, and this is where I'm sure Keith will have some input. He finally did like solidly get to me, and there wasn't big gaps being built on exit. And
Mhm.
I just started playing the most defense I've ever played in a race in my life. And um, if Peyton, I will say the one mistake he made was a lot of times when he would have a run, he would show his hand way too early and would give me a chance to defend it. If he would have waited in certain instances and hit me on entry instead of showing like in the middle of a straightaway, he probably would have drove right around me, to be honest with you. But he drove me as clean as anybody has ever driven me in the series. Me and him have had a lot of battles, and we talk after races. We've always been clean with each other. So I I didn't necessarily try to take advantage of that, but I didn't think he was going to come in and maybe do what
And
Keith
clean
would
you
have done
out.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's have it, Mirror Man.
I, just like I told everybody else, I was in there spotting for them, and I told Peyton when he got behind you, I said, "Bro," I said, "Hey, Healy wants this win, and he's gonna do whatever he can to keep this win. And if you're gonna beat this man, you're gonna have to be aggressive for one. I mean, obviously, don't wreck nobody, but you're gonna have to be aggressive, and you might have to give him the bumper. I mean, that's just all there is to it." I was like, he's not gonna pull over for you, you know."
No.
And just like you said, when he showed his nose too early going down the front straightaway there, I chewed him out. I said, "What are you doing?" "Man, I thought I was gonna get a run." I said, You made a mistake." I said,
Mhm.
if you would have waited just another 50 feet, and
Yep.
when he was already committed to running that line, and you dove under him, he would have. I mean, the outcome would have been maybe a little different in that corner.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
so he was just in his head. He got in his head for the last couple laps, and even on the white flag, y'all went into turn one, and he spun the tires coming out of the first corner, and he
Yep.
was like, "Oh, it's over, it's over." I was like, "Chill out." I was like, just run your lap." I said, "A lot can happen." And sure
Mhm.
enough, he pulled right back up to you. He gained a huge run to the bus stop,
Hmm.
and
I
and
was being very because I didn't want to do what you probably thought was I could have just bended at any point because we're on old tires. You never know what's going to happen.
mhm, yeah, and so I just told him. I said, "Man, just run the rest of your race." And I seen he had a run. Going with like what 2 corners to go. I was
Yep.
like, "All right, this is it." I was like, "What you gonna do?" And he gets right up to you. He gets a huge run going into last corner. I said, "Okay." And
We
well, I
both
didn't say
spun the tires. We both
yeah.
spun the tires.
I didn't really say anything out loud. I just wanted to let him
Yeah.
run his race. And when he got to your inside, dude, that was the perfect opportunity just to rub a
Yep.
little bit and have a drag race to the line, and he didn't. So he was like, I'm not used to being in those situations because usually I'm either out front or I'm just too far back where I can't win the race." And I said, "Well, I mean, I get that. I do."
Yeah.
I said, he was like, "I'm just too nice. I'm too nice." And I said, "That's okay too. But you know what? The same thing I tell everybody, being nice don't win races or championships." I said,
Yep.
don't go out here and just be an asshole by no means. But
There's a
at the
middle ground.
yeah, there is a middle ground. But at the same time, you gotta do what you gotta do to win races. I said, anybody, he would have did the same shit to you. So,
Yep.
that's
But
just one of those things.
at the same time, when we get to the playoffs, he didn't turn me. He didn't bump me. I have no reason to race him extra hard. If he had done something, and not even that it would have been dirty, but it would have been in the back of my mind if we end up in the final four, and like if I have to move this guy, I'm going to move this guy.
Right.
Um, but back to there's one instance that really stuck out to me with him being nicer than I thought he should have been. He got beside me in the S's one time and going uphill into the second part of the S going left onto the big straight. So I was on the inside. He should have built a huge run and forced me in and forced me to let off. And I committed I wasn't going to let out at all. And he recognized that and he let out, which really surprised me.
Well, I might have a little bit of influence on that because I seen you was committed and you wasn't letting out. I said, "Bro,
Yeah.
try to cross back under him, and he was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then, so forth. And dude, I know how bad he wanted that win. Just, I
Hmm.
mean, not the fact that he's had a pretty good season, but it's the fact that he finished bridesmaid to me last season there. So
Yeah.
he was really wanting to get that win. But at the same time, it was a hell of a broadcast right there at the end of the race. So
Yeah. And like I said, his fastest lap was 6 tenths faster than mine. He obviously had pace on me, and I'll never deny that.
So it's not like Peyton has had a bad season or anything. He's got 3 wins already, 10 top 10s, 10 top 5s. He's finished top 5 10 out of 13 races. That's phenomenal. Lucas, you were in that race. You were looking really fast in practice, especially the night before when we did the testing and stuff. And during the race, you looked good. You finished P3. Go ahead and give us some of your insights and your thoughts on that race. What ended up happening, and why weren't you able to, get up there and pull that win out?
So how my race kind of went was at first I was gonna pull, pit early in the first stage and then just try to be there at the end because I knew I was talking to Peyton before the race and he was actually giving me pointers literally right before the race, and he was like, "Look, here's what I'm doing," because me and Peyton are on like great terms. Me and him talk about every single time after the race. We're like, "Hey, look, you had a great race, blah and blah." He's a great guy all around.
Hmm.
But Watkins Glen is one of my favorite tracks. I really wanted to win it. And lap 5, I hit the inside wall going into the bus stop. I was as close as you can get, and it net coated it. And I started getting my own head, and then I was like, all right, well, I'll just cruise here. I finished second stage because I was like, well, I'm gonna just get team points. And then I think I restarted like 7th after a stage, and then that wreck happened. I thought my race was over going to that S's.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up making it through, but once that caution came out, I was like, all right, well, I might have a chance now. Well, with the restart with Alex, Peyton, and me, I was right behind them for a few laps, and then I started making mistakes, started getting my own head, and then one mistake led to another. I overcooked my tires, and I was just like, I'm gonna just watch this go down, and I'm gonna hope they wreck each other, and then I'm in the best spot I think I can be. And they ended up pulling 6 seconds and never wrecked, and I was like, well, the best road course I've ever done. So I'll still take second of the stage and third place in the actual race.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's an easy place to cook your tires, like you said. Where Coda, everyone knows, is my favorite road course, and you can kind of recover tires over a lap there because of the low speed sections. At Watkins Glen, it's really, I guess, turn 8 and turn 1 are the only real hard braking zones. Outside of that, like, it's what I would call NASCAR road racing, where it's very high speed and flowy, and just trying to maintain speed and roll centers of turns and stuff like that, versus like nailing a specific braking point at
Mm-hmm.
a coda or something like that.
which one thing I actually realized running behind you all, I was sending it so much harder into the bus stop than you and Peyton. That's where I
Well,
was getting my
I
time.
was I was soft into the bus stop all night. I was okay, but Peyton was definitely faster, and I'm sure that you were too. Your best lap was just a touch better than mine as well. And like I said, I'm not going to mistake that my pace was the best pace in that race. It absolutely wasn't.
Yeah, I was just there to have fun. Honestly, I know every time I go to walk-ins, something usually happens, and I was like, well, I'm gonna just try to make an imprint on this race. And well,
Yep.
I think second of the stage and third is a pretty big imprint for that race.
I agree. It was, it was a good race to watch. All in all, we did have the full course cautions, which we typically don't have. One was thrown by iRacing due to the track being blocked, and then the second one I threw because the track was blocked in the S's, and it didn't throw it. So, it was definitely a good race. On the Xfinity side, Keith, you want to take off on this one and kind of fill us in on what happened on Xfinity? I'm don't remember exactly what happened at Watkins Glen on Xfinity. I know Blake Hensley had a start in the back. He started 18th, and he ends up grabbing the win. You were P3, and Radburn was P2. So, you want to walk us through what you remember about that race?
Yeah, I mean, granted, I have slept a little bit. I'm still trying to find it hard to remember some of the things that race. I was sitting here trying to remember that while we're sitting here. But um, yeah, man, this Hensley started in the back, and he was pretty good in a practice session right before the race, or the race session had went up. So I knew he was gonna be quick, and
Mhm.
I know Radburn, man, he's been fast, and I thought he was gonna get that win, and I know just moving on to the latter part of that portion of that race, with the last green flag pit stops, I had a game plan of pitting before everybody so I could just, try to have that, that
Hmm.
little cushion right there.
Mhm.
And the lap that I was going to do it, Hensley ends up going in before me. And he never said nothing in Discord. And I was like, damn it. I was like, well, there goes my race, my shot. But I knew it, and Radburn and Penn, they waited late to pit,
Mhm.
and I think that's where they messed up. And dude, Blake was on rails, dude. That was just all there was to it. He couldn't be touched at the end of the race, and um, I know whole Radburn, he was kind of upset a little bit because, like I said, man, he's been fast every week, and which we'll hit on that, I guess, here in a little bit. But
Mhm.
he's been fast every week. But he's consistent. He's been real consistent. And as far as myself, dude, I'm just trying to just make it through the damn race. That's all I can do. And I mean, I can't really speak on a lot behind me because I don't really remember a lot. I know I had some damage from getting loose out of the carousel,
Yeah,
and
you
I hit.
got you had 16x player.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah.
With about 7 laps to go, I had 16x, so
Mhm.
I had to back off, and I was like, well, I'm trying to point race here, and I don't need a drive through or whatever the penalty it was.
Right.
So I took it back 1,000 knots, and we just tried to finish the race. But I mean, I thought it was a pretty good race from the driver's seat for sure. I mean, there was a lot of guys coming and going. Um, no, I don't remember. I don't really remember too many incidents. I know there was maybe two or three. I don't know. I mean, like I say, I don't really remember a whole lot of that race. Well,
It's a long time ago. We slept since then.
Yeah.
yeah,
I know Radburn led the majority of the race, and then
right.
Yeah.
Blake led the last 8 laps. I was honestly surprised. I didn't know why him and Alex stayed out as late as they did. Um,
Might
Radburn,
have had a little heebie-jeebies from the truck race, thinking maybe a crazy caution would come out.
it's possible. I mean, Radburn turned his fastest lap on lap 32.
Yep.
Of what, a 36, 40 lap race. Was it 40 laps? I think maybe
I think 40.
40 lap race. So he didn't turn it till right there
Yeah.
at the end, but it was too late. Blake went a 113, 142 on lap 21, so he showed his speed early coming through the field. Didn't seem to have too many issues or getting into anybody or anything like that. Pulled off a nice win for sure.
Yeah, he was flying fastest lap. I was surprised looking through results here. There was just really the top 4 winning the 113s, and then you had James Silvers, which I'm assuming he ran into trouble because he was the only other guy that went in the 113s. So it kind of looks like there was the top 4, and then the rest of the guys.
Yeah,
Um,
and that was something I was talking about in my interview too. Like, I was surprised that most of our team, like Cornerstone and Weaponized, whatever, like, was as fast as they was on the road course as a group.
Hmm.
Because I was looking at times, I was like, wow, like I wasn't really expecting this out of y'all. Um, just because they've been so good at all the other like ovals and stuff like that. Because I don't know if it was really like that at Coda.
Mm.
But I do know they do a lot of practice races and a lot of AI racing and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
which I don't get in on because I'm so busy doing other stuff. But yeah, man, I feel like they really did their homework, and I'm just happy to be a part of that team for that week, just to
Mhm.
show their dominance at that road course.
For
Yeah.
sure. And special shout out to my Cup Series teammate. He's been running Xfinity races. Matt Grenier, clean driver in the Xfinity race. He was
Back to
pretty
back,
proud of that.
actually.
Yeah, because he was clean driver in the Cup Series
Cup
as
Series
well,
as well.
which we're about to get to. And I'm gonna
I'll break it too hard or get on the throttle too fast, and I don't know. I just come out of the corner, and I think the front tire slid just a smidge, and when I hit those rumble strips, dude, it was game over.
Yep.
I couldn't do anything, and I was like, "Oh man!" And I seen it start cutting to the right, and I was trying to correct it, and then I was like, "Well, I guess I'm just here for the ride now." And I I know I hit somebody to my right. I thought it was GT. I didn't realize it was bracket, and um, so I didn't really know what was going on. And then once I finally got the car like stopped, hell, I had to let everybody by, and just try to tuck in from behind there. And then the next thing I know, Brackett I guess he got hammered by somebody or something like that. I don't know.
mm,
Man, I felt so bad. Like I, my
it's one of the worst feelings in iRacing because I've been there too.
yeah, like my credibility over here is getting there, but at the same time, when something like that happens, like, oh yeah, that's that dude. Like, yeah, you gotta watch this guy. And I'm just like, man, well, I guess all I can do is just apologize and try to make it right moving forward.
That's
That's
the
all I can
biggest thing. Apologizing will go a long way. A lot of guys don't apologize for shit that they do, but I'm telling everyone right now, if you just say, "Hey, man, my bad," or if it was my fault, my bad, I'm sorry, these guys will appreciate that so much more because a lot of the older guys that have been here for a minute, when they mess up, that's the thing they do. They're apologizing to these guys saying, "Hey, I fucked up, my fault, dude. I'm sorry," whatever. If there's anything I can do to make it up, let me know. So that's one of the big things that guys, I think the newer guys have they don't really do much apologizing. I know that with you just saying sorry, that went over with a lot of guys really well. That helped, kind of smooth things out.
Yeah, I'm not really the one to really apologize a whole lot. I mean,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I have learned, if I am in the wrong, then I have to make it right.
Yeah.
If I Same thing I've told you 100 times. If I feel I have a legit argument here, I'm gonna ride that shit to my grave. Like this is all there
Yeah.
is to it.
Yeah,
But
don't worry about saying shit. We haven't touched our F bomb limit yet. I bet we get there later.
Mhm.
But one thing I wanted to ask you, Keith, you're faster in the cup cars than I am. But you have had issues early in runs. Um, we all know cold tires early in the run. You got to take it easy. For me, in the cup cars, it feels like it's times 10. Cold tires in the cup car because the ride height's so low, and you can drag the rear splitter or whatever. It feels very very twitchy in the cup cars on any track for like 2, 3, 4, 5 laps, depending on the track we're on. Is that something that you notice as well?
oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you said what you just said. Like, I think it has a lot to do with track as well.
Mm,
Because just like Wednesday, at Nashville on cold tires, I could flat out run wide open right from the get go.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can rip
Yeah,
it.
and then obviously like somewhere like Fairgrounds or Wilkesboro or even at the Glen like that. I mean, it
You
does
got to
take a
let
couple.
the ride height come
Yeah,
up to
Tire
where it's not.
pressures. Yep.
Yep.
yeah,
Tire
Hmm.
pressures have to build.
I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say banking. I think has a lot to do with that, but at Fairgrounds, I mean, that has pretty good bit of banking. So I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know, but I do see that. And
It's different from the other cars for
Yep.
sure.
exactly.
There,
Definitely.
it's like all cars are slow on cold tires, but the cup car is very, very finicky until you get the tire pressures up because the car is so low to the ground, and you've got actual body components hitting the ground at certain times that can. I think that has been a thing for you where you want to go hard right off the bat because you're fast and no one's going to say you're not. Um, but when you do that sometimes in the cup car, I think that's what's come back to bite you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing, something else to add to that is like I think is because I change so many cars like throughout the week, like with leagues and stuff that I run. Like I've run open wheel dirt Sunday, Monday I crew chief and spot for Peyton and Jeremy, and then Tuesday Xfinity, Wednesday Cup, Thursday now Road to Pro in the truck. So I'm just like, there's just so many different types of cars, and
Hmm.
it, I mean, it's hard just to try to finagle every like driving style for each of those cars, and obviously the Cup cars being the world's worst on the sim to me. So I'm sitting here trying to get used to that, but still maintain pace and with all the Cup guys. But granted, a lot of them guys, this is majority what they run all the time, so they know what they're doing. And
Mm-hmm.
not saying that I don't know what I'm doing. I just don't have as much experience as they got.
Right.
I think it's just getting the feel for it because not that I'm in the same stratosphere as far as a skill or anything, but I dedicate most of my time to trucks. If I go to practice, it's for trucks. And then I show up on Wednesdays and I take my truck knowledge and try to apply it to this car that nothing transfers
It's not
over
applicable at all.
at all. Like
Mm-mm.
you run a different line, your braking points are different, your throttle points are
Yep.
different. Nothing transfers over. So
Nothing.
for a guy like you that's running, 6, 7, 8 different cars in a week, it's got to be even that much worse.
Yeah, it is, and then plus the whole shifting thing with the next gens, I
Oh
haven't
my
got that down
god.
pat. I have not got that
It's
down pat yet.
yeah, and that's a thing in real life that a lot of guys have issue with is that shifting saves guys from mistakes because you can still drive off so hard even after you make a mistake if you're down a gear versus the guy next to you. But that's one of the intricacies of the cup car, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be annoying for us for sure, but I think that's one of the things that kind of makes it great at the same time. It can be aggravating, but that's once you learn it and you nail those things and you throw down good laps or whatever, it feels real nice to master a car that is very different from
Yep.
everything else that we drive.
Yep. Lucas, we've not heard much from you. Do you have any experience in the Cup cars? Are you just? We know you primarily run the truck series, but do you have any experience running Cup cars at all?
There's been a few times that I've actually ran the Cup cars. I know I actually raced up when they were at Atlanta, and
That's
I
right.
actually I ran with Cornerstone and them, and I was actually so shocked on how loose it was at Atlanta. I was expecting it to be really, really tight and
Right.
just want to plow up
Hmm.
to the wall. It was the absolute complete opposite. I was getting loose on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and I even have that same issue at like Daytona and Talladega. And I'm like, it's not what I'm used to because with the trucks, it's probably the one of the tightest things I have ever raced, besides
Mm-hmm.
the new late models.
Especially
But
where we do 50% fuel, it makes it even tighter.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and it's just it's so crazy to me on how different you have to run these cup cars,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just something that really hasn't appealed to me. Granted, I might be racing in a cup league. It might be here, it might be somewhere else. But do I want to expand my horizons to the cup car? Yeah, because it's what NASCAR actually runs and stuff like that. But it's just so much different, and it shocks me so much on how different it is.
Yeah. And it's just like I was practicing with them at the Glen. You had to drive the dog piss out of it to be fast. It was an incredibly insane how fast you had to be to actually have a good lap time and how hard you had to drive the car off the corners. Um, and it was just completely, it took me a while to get the hang of it, but I finally did get the hang of it. So is there anything else we need to cover for the Cup Series at the Glen before we move on to trucks at Nashville Super Speedway?
There sure is, buddy. There sure is,
The
and that
lap
is
car.
my good pal David Farmer, and how I think that at least we should have had a really good race to the end, and this
Yep.
lap car. I can't remember who it was specifically.
Chuck Blake.
Chuck Blake.
Charles.
Yep. So
Good, super good dude. I like the guy and
Yes.
all, and he's cool. He's funny as hell.
he tried to do. This is why, like, I can't be mad at him. He tried to do the right thing. He just did it in the wrong
way.
part of the track.
Yes. So the leaders are coming up on him, and John Schwartz calls out on the radio, "Hey, lap cars leader is approaching. Leaders are approaching." They were trying to race it out. Dave had tracked Schwartz down and caught right up to him. It was just a little, like, half a second off of him at this point. It was going to turn out to be an amazing race, right? So they go into the bus stop. Chuck's like trying to pull over out of the way, but slow down, but he slowed down too much, got in the way. Dave ended up having to get a slow down penalty when he went through the bus stop because he entered with the end of the grass because he was afraid. He didn't know what that guy was going to do. And unfortunately, it ruined Dave's chances to win at Watkins Glen. Like I said, I don't want to beat up on the guy.
Tough.
I don't want to beat up on the guy because he's apologized. He knows he made a mistake and he understands it. But it absolutely did interfere with the leaders and potentially altered the outcome of the race at the Glen, because I feel like we had a really, really good race coming up between Dave and Schwartz.
Yep, and I was
like 3 to go.
Yep, and I was in the position where Keith was on that Monday night. I kind of knew where I fell in the Cup Series. Like, I know how to get around there, but I haven't totally figured out the car. I was trying to help out Dave as much as I could, and that's his best track in that car. He got a win robbed from him last season, so
100%.
It was one that he had circled on the calendar, all that kind of stuff, and due to previous penalties, he had to start from the back and trying to pace himself to get through the field without taking damage on the way, whatever it took. And he had done everything right to that point, which is part of why it was so frustrating for him. And it, like I've said so many times on here, it's part of racing. You can do every single thing right, and the racetrack will tell you,
Nope.
eat shit. Nope. It's not your day.
If he starts on the front, he wins that race.
Yeah, I think pretty comfortably. And I mean, I know I'm biased. That's my homie. It's my teammate. All that good stuff. But he's very good there, and it sucks that he wasn't able to. But at the end of the day, he still got a nice P2 out of it. I think he'll end up in the playoffs, and we'll go from there.
Yep, he's right on the bubble right now. So I think he did gain a couple spots.
He's looking okay after Nashville.
Even with what happened, and which we'll get into shortly. All right, so let's move up to the trucks at Nashville Superspeedway, which was this past Monday. We had a pretty clean race up until the end.
We did.
Let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room, I guess, which is Lucas versus Twitty, and what happened there. Lucas, you want to bring us in?
It's your time to shine, player.
Your time to talk about it, man.
So it's the final 10 laps of race. Nope. If somebody's faster, you're going to race them. I completely understand that. I have nothing against Twitty. I want to go ahead and address that now. I don't have any issues with it.
Right.
Good call.
I went to go make a pass on him into turn one. He started on the bottom, went towards the top, so I tried to cut underneath him, and he started to come back down. So instead of getting on the brake, because I was on fresh tires, I just let it coast, and I didn't hit him too hard. I just moved him up the lane.
There's a little tap.
It was just a little tap, and I got underneath them side by side off the corner, and going down the backstretch, he's showing his displeasure. He's driving down the middle of the back straight, and I mean, he has every right to do that. Like I said, I don't have any issues with him. The issue I have about this whole situation was uh, exiting turn 4. I was there, and I was entering the tri-oval, and I was going to run higher because I've been running the same lap in the tri-oval the same way. I don't go all the way down to the white until I'm at the start finish line. And he comes down and he turns me, and I save it, and
He saved you. Well, you guys got well. We'll talk about it more, but you got sideways. He corrected you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which like he didn't save you on purpose, obviously, but that's what happened.
and to me it felt intentional, and I mean, I don't know. I went back and
I'll tell you about it in a minute. Just go ahead.
I watched his point of view, and it said there's still a car there, and he's still turning down, And I even saw from his rig point of view, I was in his blind spot, but when he was coming down the track, you could clearly see me there, And so I didn't like that, and I I I was pissed off. I'll admit I was heated. I ran basically top 5 all race until a caution came out late after I pitted. Um, and driving down the backstretch, I'm catching him. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna catch him. I'm gonna bump him again out of the way. Not this lap or anything. And going into the corner, I turned exactly what I normally do, and I saw a car come up from the bottom. So I straightened out the wheel, and I immediately got in the brake. I did not mean to take him out whatsoever. I still have the stream up if he wants to go back and look at it. I didn't mean to take him out whatsoever, and I just made contact with him, and he was right there. And I went back and checked our speeds, and I was going clearly faster into the corner than he was, and I thought he was going to maybe go a little bit faster because, like I said, we were on fresh tires, and that's how I was running in the beginning of the race. So even last 10, you got to run it like Q laps for the final 10.
Yep.
So we actually looked at this yesterday. Dave and I did, and we reviewed what happened in the travel. And so, based on what we saw, you can see Twitty's wheel, right? You can see the wheel input. He starts turning down, and then he sees you, and you see him when he notices that your truck is coming up. He turns back like right and then goes back center. But it was too late. There was a massive gap of net code. Like he never actually touched you, but
On
the net code registered it as his contact, because when we looked at it, you could see you were drifting up a little bit and he was coming down, and y'all met at the same time. So we ended up, like I said, we looked at it. It was deemed a racing incident because I don't feel like there was any intent there after looking at his wheel input, how he went back like this, like, cause he was turning, and he was maybe like 11 o'clock or something. And then you can see the wheel go back real fast, then come back center, but it was just too late at that point. Y'all had hit. And, so then he hits you again, straightens you back out. Y'all go around. He's at the same speed as everyone around him, including Wiggin and the guy in front of, I think it was Drew Pro. All those guys were the same speed in the corner. Go ahead.
I was going to say that I was a part of it. I benefited from it a lot. But when I looked at it after the race, which I know everybody else's replays might look different, and this is a part of iRacing. On mine, he never actually touched you in the tri-oval. I mean, as close as you can be in iRacing, I would say 6 inches was as close as he got, but net code turned to you to a certain extent, and then that's turned to you, and then he straightened you after that. And I don't think that you're lying about your intent in turn 3. I think it's just a product of just the most horrific timing for that to happen. And in the race, with everyone seeing what happened on the front straight, and then with that happening, the immediate response is like, Obvious retaliation. The guy's got to go. And upon further review, I don't necessarily think that's the case. I don't think Jason made the wrong call in doing what he did. But I think it's just a product of very close racing and just very poor timing for mistakes to get made as well.
Yeah. And when we looked at it, you were like, it wasn't that much. It was only like 4 or 5 mile an hour faster. So
I think it was 8, but
It was
I'm
8.
8.
I looked at it. Yeah.
when contact was made, though, it was only 4.
148 to 140, I think, was the difference, if I remember right.
No, it was one. It was 158 to 162 is what it was yesterday. When contact was actually made.
Math is hard, okay?
Math is hard. I agree with you. But like, yeah, going in the corner, I was like 8 miles an hour faster, and as soon as I went to straighten out my wheel, because I don't want to hit Wes, who's underneath me, because then I look like a dick, because he didn't do anything to me at all. I'm just trying to get back in my rhythm and gain as many spots before the 10 laps is up. And I mean, I'll say it again. I never meant to take him out, and I hit him. I'll accept that. I did hit him, but I mean, if an apology happened, if he didn't mean to hit me in the trioval, I might have raced a lot less aggressive into turn 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
apology goes a long way with me.
Mm-hmm.
I never heard it, but if an apology happened, I might have raced different in turn 3.
Yeah, I understand. We still haven't came to final determination on the incident just yet. We're working it out. We still have a few. I don't know. I haven't heard from Dave who's looked at it with him just yet, but I know that when he and I looked at it, that we were, both kind of disagreeing on what the deal was at the end there.
I was just going to say right quick. I agree with Lucas. His last statement, he just said, if apology would have happened, like somewhere about it, like obviously I didn't see the race. I'm not really talking about that situation specifically, but when someone is in a situation like that, if apology was to happen, then yes, you do race a little bit different after that. And I can speak on this. I can speak on this because of when Swartz got into me at IRP. He got me plumb sideways right in the middle of the field. I about lost it. And I'll be completely honest with you. I'll say it here on live podcast, whatever. If I would have got back to him, it was over. But we had a caution come out, and then he spoke up and said, "My bad." And that sort of leveled my mind off a little bit. Okay, the hell with it. Let's move on.
Yeah,
so I get it. I know exactly what he's saying.
And I'll follow that up, Keith, which I think with Lucas's scenario, I don't know if there was enough time with as tight as the racing was for him to say anything. But like you, Keith, at this race we're talking about right now, I got hit pretty hard right around that time by Taylor Peacock, and I told Jason I probably shouldn't, but he was on fresh tires. I wasn't. He moved me super hard, and I had every intention to knock him out of the race. We've had our past way before you guys were a part of this league, and if I had been on fresh tires, I absolutely would have. I would have jeopardized my championship hopes. I would have annihilated him right there in front of everybody. So I understand like the quick reaction, because it's hard to be logical over emotional in those moments. Some of that it takes time, and with you, Keith, that you had a caution in between, it allowed him to mic up, because when I'm racing, I can't I can't key up or like I'm too focused on what I'm doing. Where like with Twitty and Lucas, that stuff happened within a half lap, and not saying that he shouldn't have keyed up at some point, but it happened so quickly that it's hard to expect that to happen as well.
Which it's also not my first time experiencing netcode.
Yes.
If that's what happened at that track, because there's actually been a league race where I was actually leading, and I also got turned in the tri-oval by somebody trying to pass me. You know,
Yep.
This one was a lot more. So while I was driving, I knew exactly it was that code and stuff like that. But when I was in the car, I was looking in my mirror the whole time. You
Yeah.
know, seeing where he was at, and you know, when you're sitting in the car, a few inches doesn't seem.
No, it's he's right there, and you see your truck move. It's like, well, obviously he did that to me.
Yeah, and it's like in the heat of the moment, I was like, he turned me on purpose.
Hmm.
If I get back to him, I'm gonna bump him out of the
Yeah.
way and I'll take that spot from him.
Yeah,
I'm not.
it's
I'm
game time.
Yeah, and especially with that many laps left, you know, I'm not the person to intentionally take somebody out. You know, if you look at that situation, if you still think that I took him out, that's your decision, you know. But I'm not that kind of person. I will bump you up a lane and then I'll pass you that way.
Hmm.
But I'm not gonna intentionally wreck anybody.
Yeah, it was
But-
just bad. It was a bad look, the whole thing, bad timing, I guess. But like I said, we're still deliberating on the whole incident. We'll have something out tomorrow. I'm assuming. I guess we'll reconvene.
I get to hear about it when I'm sitting at work, and then I hear Dave. Dave sits right behind me at work, and I hear them keys rattling off. It's like, oh, he's talking to Jason. But
Which-
with that, I guess we got to get on to Xfinity.
Well,
What?
there's
Well, we got
got-
we got one more thing from Trucks Monday. Also, Fernando and Vaughn,
We do.
and not holding brakes. But so Fernando and Jeremy had an altercation on lap 29. Fernando was coming in. Dave and I looked at this yesterday. Also, he was coming in and he ran the same freaking line he ran the lap before, because after Jeremy came in during this whole thing, we were talking, and I just come flat out and asked him, I was like, why did you brake check Fernando on lap whatever something it was way up there? He said, well, because what he did to me on lap 29. I was like, what had happened on that? So we went and looked at it. And he says Fernando came up into him or turned late or something, but he didn't. He turned the exact same time that he always does. And you can see Fernando's turning into the corner. Jeremy just comes lane and a half down right on top of him. So, Jeremy didn't like the fact that I was saying it was his fault. He said it was BS and the whole situation was BS. And I get that. And then going down the backstretch, you got Jeremy, after Fernando like moved him a little bit and because he went down to 130 mile an hour, dude. It was bad. It was real bad. It's very obvious that he was trying to hold him up. He was definitely on the brakes in front of him because he went right up in front of him in 3 and 4. And this is like on lap 80 or 90. Dave would have to remind me if he can pop it in chat real quick. Cause we're live on Twitch also right now during the recording of this podcast, which will be out on all major podcast platforms later on. But 89 is what Dave said he thinks it was. I think it was in the 80s or 90s as well. He brakes right in front of Fernando. Fernando gives him a little bump, and then they go on. And I don't know why Fernando didn't just like cut down and try to go around him, but maybe he saw that Jeremy intentionally came up in front of him trying to block, and so they go into one, and Fernando moves him up off the driving line and gets around him, and then he's starting to pinch Jeremy's starting to pinch Fernando, and he's pinching him hard, and all the way down the backstretch, Jeremy starts out. He's up next to the wall. He's in there's like a half seam up there, right? He's in the seam right below that half seam at Nashville Superspeedway. So Jeremy starts coming down, and about 3/4 down the back stretch, he just doors the crap out of Fernando. Doors him, and then he goes up and comes back and doors them again, and then that's when they both just go off flying into the corner. Which is why we said the trucks were mainly clean until the end of the race, because we had Lucas's deal, and then we also had Fernando's deal. So those two things were unfortunate. I was hoping that it didn't happen that way, because I know there was a lot of guys on fuel strategy and shit like that, and we want to see fuel strategy play out in these races, because that's what we're known for, is having green flag runs and stuff like that. And we've had a few races this season where we've not had any of that because of stuff happening with big fields like we have, 30 plus cars. Obviously this week we were down to 25 in trucks, which is still a good number, but it's not what we've been seeing all season. We are 1 week away from playoffs. This week will be Daytona. And then the other thing that really need to be addressed, the issue that need to be addressed, is not holding brakes when you're wrecking, because somebody mentioned this a couple weeks ago and we completely forgot about it. But there's some guys that were wrecking a couple times. They didn't hold their brakes. They just let their trucks go wherever on the track, take out more drivers. That shit, man, you guys got to do better. Like, we're in week 13 of the season, going into week 14 of the season. One more week and then the playoffs begin. There's no reason why people shouldn't be holding their brakes and keeping their trucks from coming back up into traffic and wiping other trucks out and ruining people's races. These guys are paying money each week to run these races, just like you are. And just, when your race is over, you shouldn't be in that mindset, well, I'm just going to ruin everybody else's race. There's no reason for it. Like, it's just childish. It's not needed.
We're better than that.
Than that.
We should be way past this.
Absolutely. All right. So
there's one more thing I want to talk about in the trucks.
Okay.
So this was actually from Barrett and Jonah, who actually, after that stage happened, iRacing didn't give them a full tank of fuel. So later on in the race, they had to pit early, which
I was curious about that.
Yeah, I figured you were. So it only ended up giving them like 3 gallons of fuel. So when they went down one after another, it baited, like, I know I would talk to Peyton, and he went in because they were like, well, that's first and second coming in and pit road. I guess that's the strategy. So everybody followed, and that left Sean Kaiser and me in first and second, and I wish that thing would have went green, man. I really did.
It would have been way better for us.
Well, and that also wants me to ask you a question. How do you think the points battle is between Flex and JC Motorsports?
I mean, it's as close as it could be. After JC killed that last race. I mean, finished above us pretty much everywhere, which we had a small lead. It's going to come down to the end. I mean, there's no way around it. It's going to be. We don't talk about team points a lot. It's harder to keep track of, and we do our updates every couple weeks, really, but. It's going to be interesting, and we're definitely racing for it.
I want to bring this up. JC Motorsports finished first, second, fourth, and sixth in Nashville, and all of them were points drivers. That's awesome. Then we had first, third, fourth. I can't remember. I think Dustin still finished in the top 10. So we had 4 drivers in the top 10 after Nashville too.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's going to be a good one.
Jonah come out with the win. Obviously, dude's looking like he's the one to beat this season in trucks, man. Both y'all have your hands full. Peyton's right on his heels, but it's just like Jonah's fast everywhere. It's crazy, man. He's, reminiscent of Keith last season in trucks. He's not got quite the wins yet, but he's getting there. I mean, 5. How many did you have last season, Keith, in trucks?
7 total.
So
if the iRacing bug stops getting Jonah Colbert, I will guarantee that he will beat 7 from him.
well,
I will guarantee that.
we'll have to wait and see. We've got
about to find out, player.
8 more races to go. So I mean, it's definitely the numbers are on his side at this moment. But 8 races, if we continue having big fields, then anything can happen.
Well, I'll tell you, when I entered the playoffs last season, I had 5. So if he don't win Daytona, then there we go. It's dead even. So
Yeah.
I want him to prove me wrong, and I said that to I said if anybody can get more wins than I did last season, I don't know if y'all remember this. I put in the Discord at the beginning of the season. I would give them $50.
I don't remember.
Courtesy of NH Lens. I'll give them $50 if they can break my win streak. So just remember that, Jonah. I hope you don't break it, but if you do, all power to you. So
there's a tough schedule coming up ahead.
I got you, Keith. I got you, player.
Tough schedule coming up ahead that is going to make it even harder for him to potentially get those next 2 wins, right? I mean, you got Darlington and Talladega, which Talladega's a crapshoot. We all know that, just like Daytona's a crapshoot. Dover and the Roval. So I don't know how he is at road courses. From what I've seen, it's not great, I guess, but it's not terrible.
Good, but not great is how he described it to me.
Yeah, that's
he'll be a top 10.
Yeah, that's good, but not like he's not going to have winning pace. Probably. Then you have Homestead, which is probably right around that's his bread and butter. Homestead 1.5 mile stuff. I definitely look for him to probably get 2, if not 3. He might be able to get 3 out of the next 8. But it's going to be tough, man. Either way, Daytona's a crapshoot. Darlington, it's all about keeping your shit clean. And I know Peyton's going to be fast there. Peyton's going to be a freaking rocket at Darlington. Dover, I don't know how he'll do there but I know he's been pretty solid at short tracks this season.
He's really good at saving tire.
Yes. Yeah. And, then Martinsville is another short track, and then you have Phoenix. So it's possible. I mean, a lot of time left to do it still. But as Keith said, Keith had 8 or 5 going into the season with 7 races remaining and was only able to get 2 more. I mean, he still came out the champion, but he was only able to get 2 more. So
I won the first race of the playoffs and the last race of the playoffs.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be tough for him, man. Either way. Definitely going to be tough.
I wish he would have been there last season with me. I think that would have been a hell of a battle between me and him, because obviously I know he has battles with y'all, weekly. But I feel with his experience and my experience in the trucks, I think that would have been something pretty good to watch from my behalf. So
yep. And, last season's playoffs, if you look at last season, we had New Hampshire, Darlington, Vegas, Bristol, Charlotte, Martinsville, and then Phoenix, right? Mm-hmm. Totally different playoffs. So I don't know if he's going to have what it takes to pull out 3 wins without somebody else. There's so many guys that are so talented in this truck series that I don't know that he's going to have what it takes. But he could prove me wrong. We'll see.
Do you remember what you told me last season? You said if someone wins New Hampshire, or even me,
whoever wins New Hampshire is probably going to win Phoenix.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's exactly how it happened.
Yep.
So are you telling me that I'm going to win Phoenix? Is that what you're saying?
If you're good at New Hampshire, it usually translates well. I know, but I want to say, if you're good at New Hampshire, it translates well to Phoenix. It's that simple. And New Hampshire was the first race of the playoffs, and Phoenix was the last race. So this season we had New Hampshire at the second race.
What a disaster.
So I don't know how it's gonna play out for you, but if you're good there, you make it to the top 4, you have a really good chance at winning Phoenix. If you're good at New Hampshire, it translates really well. All right, so what do we have next? Xfinity at Nashville Super Speedway, right?
Yes, sir.
Um,
Yes, sir. Let's see here. So Nashville, my homie, my good pal Blake Hensley goes
2 in a
back to
row.
back,
Yep.
back to back, and he looked great. And he led 38 laps. Started fourth, got by Scott, who led 37 laps. Scott was on the pole. Scott also had the fastest lap of the race. Keith sitting P3. Radburn, once again, another top 5. That's not a win. Unfortunately, I feel like he's extremely due. I can't wait to pick him for the rest of the season. And Adam Lancaster, P5, Kyle Mays, whatever. P6, Jim Ott, P7, Brad Gebhart, P8, Jeremiah Hobbs, P9, and Jonathan Adkins rounding out the top 10.
Yep. Atkins was a drop down runner from the Cup Series to the Xfinity Series this week. Ended up going out of P10. So Hensley was up front most of the night with Fritz, battling like they usually do. Fritz looked really good. Fritz was fast all race, and he had a chance to potentially get back to Blake at the end there, but some lap traffic intervened, and Blake won the stage and it maximized his points, so he moved up in the standings this week and moved himself into a to a 6th place overall in the point standing. So I know he's excited about that. Fritz moved up 2 spots, and right now we have how many guys we got on the outside looking in? 1, Todd Mays. Todd Mays is the only guy on the outside looking in. Jason Anderson's inside the top 16 now. So at this point, Tyler Evans is your bumped out man. He's your guy on the outside looking in, and he's racing teammate Justin Ray. They're only 2 points apart, and only 8 points behind Tony Iverson. So if they need a good finish next week at Daytona to make the top 16 to make the playoffs there. All in all, Xfinity was a really good race. I felt like Keith, you were there. What'd you think about it, man? Only had 2 cautions.
Yeah, I mean, compared to what we've been doing maybe the last couple weeks, a lot of green runs, which was fantastic, from the driver's seat. Well, I mean, if someone was playing a certain type of strategy, it probably wasn't the best, but at the same time, man, it was a great race. Um, Blake, he was fast all night long. He wasn't really saying a whole lot in Discord. He don't really talk much anymore unless he gets in a wreck. So,
Oh, I know that. I
yeah.
know that.
Yeah, so, but yeah, man, and I was really surprised at Fritz too, dude. He that's the first time I've seen him run like that in a couple weeks, in all honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just a huge shout out to him because I know he's been running more asphalt lately too, just with some things going on behind the scenes. So, just a huge shout out to them guys. As far as myself, I thought I played the right strategy and it was there, but I just I held pace. Pretty much the all race long until that last run, and I burned my shit up. Like, I was just trying to get up there, and then I seen Blake coming. He had about 4 laps fresher tires than I did, and he just right by me. I was like, well,
Yeah.
okay, I guess we're just gonna ride. And um and just salvage a good night. And Radburn, man, God, just like I said earlier, man, I feel so bad for him. He is the one of the most consistent qualifiers I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, he's on the pole pretty much every week, and he is definitely due for one. And I just can't imagine what's going through his mind in these races when he leads or leads a lot of the race or majority of the race or whatever, and then just whether how strategy or whatever plays in at the end, he comes up a little bit short. So,
Yeah.
but I know when he wins that first race, dude, all hell is going to break loose in our Discord and even in Bluegrass Discord, dude. I'm going to be so happy for the guy.
He's
Like,
tied me for most polls in an Xfinity Series season. I have 7 wins and 8 polls for the
Yeah.
season 1. So he's tied me for polls now. So dude is, he's pretty freaking fast, and it's like we said before. I know we touched on it a little bit, but he's got that monkey on his back, man. He needs that first win. He needs to crack the seal, and get that win so that he can get whatever demons are going on over there with him out of the. Yeah, I know he says a lot of it is because of the number change this season. He had to give up his number because Brad Gephardt technically owned his number last season. And Brad didn't run Xfinity, so I accidentally forgot that he had bought the charter for last season to keep his number alive. So he technically owned the charter when Radburn signed up. So Radburn shouldn't have had the charter to begin with, but I told him to run the 3, and obviously there's something with the 3 because it's the poles are there. But he ain't got the wins there yet. That's the thing we're missing is the wins. We need to get his wins up. So,
which I mean, even looking at the points, he's only 1 point back of having the point lead.
Yeah.
Which once he gets that win, he's just gonna rocket in momentum. He's gonna get win.
He'll be dangerous.
Yeah,
I believe so.
I think Blake has the momentum right now going into the playoffs, going into next week at Daytona. But if Radburn can get a win early in the playoffs, that momentum is going to shift. It's all going to go. It's good to be hot going into the playoffs, but it's better to get hot during the playoffs for sure. But
easier said than done. But you're 100% right.
It is easier said than done because last season I was hot before the playoffs. The playoffs started. It's like, oh yeah, I got the first win. It's like, yeah, we good. And dude, I went cold for the next 4 races, 5 races.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like,
but you got it when it mattered.
Well, yeah. If it wasn't for me getting the regular season championship and having like all those extra points, dude, I would have been screwed at the end.
Bro, I tell guys all the time, don't sleep on the regular season. You don't just think you can skate into the playoffs and then be okay, because those guys have massive bonuses coming for doing so well in the regular season. 15 points plus your wins and everything else, your polls and all that, right? 15 points, man, is a big margin. That separates you from first to 15th right off the rip in race 1. So that can make or break your race.
Yeah, I think I started with a 30, 35 point cushion, maybe 40. I don't know. Right from the get go.
Yeah, I started with a 42 point cushion whenever I started mine, so that sounds about right.
Yeah, and then obviously went cold, and then I was sitting here with Martinsville right before Phoenix, dude, struggling, and I was like, dude, I don't know if I'm gonna make it in the final 4, dude, because me and Bobby got into it at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, and Martinsville is
you were this close to not making it.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, I think it was like one position. I used it.
No, I don't think he used all of it. We're going to use it when we talk about some stuff in this cup race, I think.
Yeah, I want to say you were one position from not making it last season. And because you got wrecked out early at Phoenix, right?
No.
What? Who was it that was?
I had to start in the back at Phoenix.
But there's somebody that was 1 point.
I was 1 point 2 seasons ago in trucks.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of then, because somebody had gotten wrecked out at Phoenix and they were like 1 point from making it in because they got wrecked out early.
You might be thinking of me from 2 seasons ago.
Who it was? It was Hall, Newbert, Keith, and White were the final 4 last season. I guess it was Robbie Richards then, who I'm thinking of, because Robbie got wrecked out.
Yeah. I think it was Robbie.
Yeah, I believe Robbie got wrecked out early at Martinsville.
What was his nickname?
Yeah, he did get Robbie Wrecking Richards.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Yeah, he got wrecked out, and that's who I'm thinking of. Robbie was
Huh.
1 point away from making it in last season due to getting wrecked out.
Well, see, when I wrecked on what me and Bobby got into that incident on lap one, I had damage, dude. I drove my ass off just to try to get every point. And I didn't pull the famous Alt F4, as he would say. So I knew what was on the line and I had to go. And dude, I did everything I could. I was down on power, like everything, but everything played exactly to my favor. So you don't never like if you're in a situation like that, you don't give up.
Yep.
But if
You
you're
gotta go. You gotta go.
you gotta go.
Yep. All right, so that puts us on to Cup at Nashville Super Speedway.
Yes, sir.
Give us a rundown.
We'll hit the rundown. The redemption story after a couple weeks off, and then he had a good run at Watkins. Huffy, that's a nice looking bike,
Alex
boy.
Huffy Huffman
Gets his first winner of the season. He was looking hot all night.
first win in a while, I think.
Yeah, really. He's been one of the like ultimate bridesmaids, very consistent, but hadn't closed the deal in a while. So big congrats to him on getting the win there. Keith, P2, I know that they were kind of racing back and forth for a while. Justin Winters, P3, GT
Good job,
Hawkins,
Justin.
GT Hawkins, P4. Blake in the Cup cars still looking good. P5, Blake Hensley, Brandon Holder, P6, Jonathan Adkins, P7, Mikey Neal, P8, OH, Scott Fritz, P9, and James Silvers coming in P10.
So this was Alex's first win since Martinsville last season.
Mm-hmm.
Been a minute. That was his only win last season was Martinsville. And the season before that, when he won the championship, no, wait, that was season 4, bro. Season 5 was last. So season 4, I don't know what he did in season 4, actually. I know that I can't even remember. He win anything that year?
I thought
that
didn't
Zach
he
Nichols
win?
dominated the whole season, and Matt Kemp. Nichols and Kemp dominated that season. Never mind. So
that was my first season. Yeah.
He didn't win anything in season 4. He only won the one race in season 3, which was the last race of the year at Phoenix to win the championship. He was consistent in points all season, but kind of like what he was doing this season prior to missing those 2 races. And when he missed those 2 races, that hurt him in points and it dropped him out of the lead or the top 4 or whatever. He was close to the lead. It dropped him down. Right now he's sitting in P9 in points with 101 points out of the lead. So he needs something good to happen at Daytona to get himself securely back up there. I know Kinder's race didn't go as well as he wanted it to go this week. He's got a miss next week at Daytona. He's currently sitting 5th in points. So we don't know if he's going to make it back. Hopefully he will, but if we know for sure he's missing next week, but we don't know if he's going to be able to make it. So his position in the playoffs may be open depending on what happens the week after at Darlington. So, but we had a good race Wednesday night Cup Series. Not a lot of cautions. What do we have? 3 cautions and 130.
Mostly pretty smooth. I actually caused a caution to ruin a lot of guys' fuel strategies, which I'll say it on here. I apologize to Twitty. I'll apologize to him again. I was on fresh tires there at the end of the race, and I tried to split him and Nick Mills, and Nick kind of made a move towards the inside, and I overcorrected. I drove across Twitty's nose as I was trying to get by him. I don't think it screwed up his race, but in the moment, I felt like dog shit about it. I wanted to see all the strategies play out. Partly for me, I thought it would work out pretty okay, but unfortunate timing because, like we said, we had a pretty clean race, and then after that, that's what put us in position for the most controversial moment of the race. If you guys want to talk about that.
Yeah, what was it? I don't remember.
That was my good pal and teammate taking
Oh,
the
yeah.
intentional turn
Yeah.
on the receiving end. I
uh,
should clarify.
so what he's talking about is Brian Terry was coming off of two. Dave had a big run, went to the outside of him, squeezed between him and the wall.
I like squoze better. Squoze it in there.
Squoze it between him and the wall. Squeezed it between him and the wall, and he squoze in there. You know, Brian didn't like it too much, and ended up putting Dave in the wall, and then hit him again after he went off the wall, and just ended Brian's night for because I had to kick him out, obviously for intentional wreck, and then ruined Dave's race as well.
Yeah, which I'm gonna partially, I guess, speak on behalf of Dave here. I When I looked at it after the race and I saw who was involved, it's very confusing to me, to say the least. I'm not sure w- what it is that I guess Brian said that he had something against Dave, I guess, from a prior
Last
season,
season, yeah, it gave away
which
when Dave told him to move, and I don't know. It's just a whole mess, to be honest with you.
it's very, because I can hardly remember what happens the week before. I'm already on to the next race, and I, I'm not trying to belittle anybody or pump up my teammate or anything like that, but honestly, like, they're not around each other on the track very often. And I know that Dave has gained this reputation, rightly so, as a pretty aggressive guy. But it feels like Brian has harbored some of what other people have said about how Dave drives, and when Dave got in his rear view and then put it in a space that was big enough for a car, and he took exception to it, and it's just really confusing to me. I don't understand the animosity there.
I don't either. That's the sad thing, is I don't get it either.
It's one thing if the guy wrecked you like a couple weeks ago and turned into you or something, but like, for something that happened a season ago between guys that don't typically race around each other, I don't like that shit like this happens. Like, it's a very strange place to decide that I'm going to take this dude out. And I think that he's admitted that to both you and Dave. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, to use that up, like, if, for instance, if me and Keith are racing for a championship and it's coming down to the wire, yeah, I'd probably turn his ass to win a championship, but I ain't gonna turn a guy that's 13th in points and we're getting ready to go into the playoffs for
Nothing,
for,
really.
yeah, nothing, because Dave still finished ahead of him. So it's so confusing.
Yep. I don't know either. I'm not 100% why it happened, and I'm not happy with it happening. Obviously, it puts me in a precarious situation. So
And I'm like you. I like both of those guys. I've talked to Brian a ton of times, and obviously, me and Dave are good buddies. We work together. We've known each other for a long time, and all that good stuff. But like, we we've had we had a purported instance of, we thought initially that Lucas wrecked a guy on purpose. Probably not the case at this point, but this is not Brian's first instance of doing this either, because it happened last season at Dover. And it's I know he's been around a long time, and I like him a lot. I'm glad he's here, but we can't have this stuff either. Like, it's how do you police something like this? I guess. I mean, I know that you're the guy in charge. It's it's just hard to watch happen.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to the rules. The rule book states he's got to be suspended, for a race, and he'll lose 20 points. And he already put it in there. He loses 20 points, and has to miss Daytona next week, and then he's on a 4-week probationary period. So if he does anything else in the next 4 weeks, then it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's something that you and I have talked about before, and I'm that guy in the Cup Series to a certain extent. We have to have guys like Brian that are dedicated to the series, and they're going to show up for every race. What win, lose, or draw doesn't matter, and it puts you in a weird position because you don't want to come down too hard on the guy and run guys out of here, but at the same time, you can't have guys intentionally wrecking guys that are racing for
Nope.
points in the championship and stuff like that.
Yep, I agree. So we have a couple. What else we have on Cup Series? Anything else?
Other than the fact I let Huffy win because I felt bad for him. You know, he got stuck all the time, so.
Oh, you know what he said earlier? He said, "Imagine being on the podcast after you choke Nashville Super Speedway." Is what he told me.
Hey, I know that he loves to talk and he hasn't been on here, so step up to the plate.
He won't get on here. He says he's afraid he'll say something. I don't know what he's afraid of, but
I've already made enemies because of him.
No, afraid he'll say he has no filter, which we don't either. So I don't know what he's worried about. I think he's just making excuses at this point. He just needs to get on here.
10 ply, soft, pillow soft, whatever. I'll put him on my bed tonight and I'll sleep easily.
All right. So
yeah, get a message from Huffy here. Don't talk about being bad and having to save gas in Nashville. Well, like I said, I did feel bad for you. You've had a tough go. You got so irritated that you couldn't run the league for a couple weeks. And, I figured the only way to reel you back in is just to let you get a win and like, oh, I can still do this. So, I had to do it. As bad as I wanted to win, I know it would have hurt your pride just a little bit too much. So, I'm glad you won, man. And so hopefully you can stick around for another 2 weeks and not give up on us. But other than that, good win and
congrats, and I hope the aggressive drivers don't run him off again.
Yeah. So
I'm a sick Dave on him next week. I'm gonna get Dave all gassed up all week. I'm talking shit to Dave. Oh, Huffy said this. Huffy said that.
So I do have some messages for us to play this week on the podcast. Let me see how I'm going to do this. I'm going to have to share my screen so that you all can hear. Or I can just listen to them and repeat them to you, I guess. The listeners will be able to hear them, but you all won't be able to hear them. I don't know how else to do this.
That's fine.
See, there might be a way to do this. I'll just have to play them, and then the listeners can hear them, and you all can, and I'll read them out to you after he says it, and then we can give our opinions on it. So the first one is no stage break cautions, and playing the message.
Hey
now.
guys, this is Jonathan Schwartz, driver of the number 95 iRacing.com Chevy in the Cup Series. And I was just calling because I know that in real life in the Cup Series, they're introducing no cautions at stages on road courses. So I was just curious whether Bluegrass is thinking of introducing that, maybe not for this season, but possibly for next season. Thanks, and curious to hear your thoughts.
So basically, John says that he knows that NASCAR is thinking about introducing no cautions on the road courses. Is that something that Bluegrass would potentially be interested in doing? Not this season, but potentially next season. Yeah, I mean, it's 100% something that we are. I'm open to, and I'm looking into possibly doing for next season. Your all's takes on it, thoughts?
Yeah, which ultimately you make the rules, but as far as what I understand we do here, we are simulating what NASCAR does. If they implement a rule, more than likely it is going to make its way to us. And one of those rules that this is not specifically what John brought up there. But in regards to protests in NASCAR, when you protest somebody, you pay money. So plan on that next season.
Yep, that's another thing too. Protest system has gotten completely out of control. It's not what it was ever intended for. It wasn't meant to protest against other drivers and crap. It's meant for if you had a call that was against you and you wanted to submit, some evidence that it wasn't necessarily called the right way. Like, with Lucas and his situation, that was perfectly fine for him to submit a protest against the call that was made to him during the race. And that's completely fine for him to submit a protest for that because he wanted to challenge the call that was made during the race so that he spoke his piece, why it wasn't intentional and all that. So, let me see the next one.
Ultimately, if you see something instituted in NASCAR, you can about bet it's going to make its way here.
Yep, absolutely. All right. The next one is labeled challenging pit roads. And this is something that anyone can do, by the way, is call in to the show. And I share the link for this all the time. I'll share it again when I make this, when this goes public, we'll share it again in the Discord.
We got to make sure Mike Peters sees it because he loves to call into NASCAR talk shows.
It would be good for him to make a call in on this. I'm trying to think real quick of how I can actually share this to you all because I can hear it, but you can't. So I really would rather it be to where everyone could hear it. Maybe if I shared my screen and let me try something. Oh, yep, here we go. You all can listen in. Once I do this, you'll have to just go on there and listen.
Yep, should be okay.
Let me know when you get it pulled up. We'll get it situated and start playing it for everybody.
I've got it up. So
it's not muted at the bottom?
Yep, should be good.
All right, good to play then?
I hope so.
All right, here we go. Let me know if you can hear it.
Hey guys, this is Jonathan Schwartz again, driver of the number 95 iRacing.com Chevy in the Cup Series. And I want to ask you guys what your thoughts are on what the most challenging pit road to enter is. There's a lot of ovals where it's a typical pit entry, but it really comes up quickly, and so the approach to get off the banking onto the flat is really challenging. Then there's Watkins Glen where it's almost like on the racing line to be able to go over to the right to slow down. So yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are on the hardest pit roads to enter and maybe even exit as well.
What do you guys think?
That's a very good question.
Very good question.
I already have an answer for it, and I just talked to Jason about this the other day. I think the hardest, like when you're at speed to try to get on pit road, I really think it's Nashville.
Fairgrounds or Speedway?
Oh, where we was just at.
Speedway.
Yeah.
Speedway.
I told him before the race that I was probably going to loop it coming off the track.
Yep.
So yeah, well, initially I ended up looping on pit road, but that's another conversation for another day. But but yeah, I think that's probably the hardest pit road just to get down to speed like that. And as far as coming off, I'm probably going to go with Wilkesboro. Just because of like if it's green flag run.
Wilkesboro is very tough, which Dave had a situation there, I think, coming off pit road. But I agree wholeheartedly. Nashville Super Speedway, I don't think it was on the broadcast, but I was running in the top 10 and I entered pit road and got loose and I hit the wall and I
saw it.
It now's the time. It fucked my whole race. From then on, I was playing catch up.
Yeah.
And I had already entered pit road. I came close to doing what I did that specific time, the time prior, and I got it woed down. And the second time, I tried to be more conservative, and it just, I don't know if it's just the transition from the track or the speed or what your mark is. Normally, that's something I focus on in practice to try and have good green flag pit stops to try and gain where I can. And Nashville's tough, dude. Like
Yep,
straight
it
up,
is.
it's tough.
Both Nashville tracks. The fairgrounds are tough to get into, and the speedway's tough to get into.
Fairgrounds is super tight, which I don't hate it as much because I knew what was maybe I practiced it more, but it's still super tight. And if you screw it up, like you'll meatball yourself on the way in at Fairgrounds.
Yeah. And that's the tough. That's what it's so tough about trying to do green flag stops at fairgrounds is you gotta really slow up for that sucker, or you hit those tires and barrels, whatever it is, at the right hand side of the wall, and it ain't good. All right.
Which he did bring up Watkins Glen.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite pit entries personally, just because you're kind of still on your same racing line, and you can be pretty aggressive getting in there and jump on the brakes kind of at the last second. So as far as that one goes, that's one of my favorites personally.
All right. So that moves us on to picks. Are we covering anything else before that?
I think we're on to picks, and it's super speedway time, so it's time to roll the dice, boys.
So Daytona trucks. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I can. I guess I'm the truck guy, unless Keith is ready and willing. He looks anxious.
I'm sitting here looking.
All right.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be one of the Flex boys. I've got a good feeling about him, and
Me too.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be Dan Worthington.
That's a good one. It's between him. Based on how the early season went, there's one guy on my team that above the others, and no disrespect to the other guys. We've all been good teammates all season. If I have my choice, I would love to push Alan Duranco to a victory. He's had such bad luck this season. I think he's typically a very clean driver. He's fast enough, and at a super speedway, it's about being in the right place at the right time. And
he still had a decent season, though. He's like 11th in points. I mean,
but to hear him tell it at the beginning of the season, he had like 3 or 4 weeks where he didn't finish a race, and not necessarily his own fault, but I'd love to push that guy to a victory to make up for some of that stuff. So if you see me behind that number 4 truck on Monday, I ain't pulling out.
Well, I will say this: the 19th driver. Really, I mean, more like the 18th driver, but 19th is close.
Yeah.
Not Jeremy's 19th, and then Fernando's 20th. So 18 through what 11, 10, maybe. Let's say 9. 11 through 9 are only separated by what 40 points, 39 points.
Very, very important for everybody there.
Yeah. Next week is still
basically Tyler Evans to Fernando.
Lucas really isn't set. Well, he's got a win, so but yeah. So from 8th or 9th, till 19th, really to 18th or something like that. It's unreal how tight the points are in the trucks.
But really, super speedway, anybody that's ran every race and doesn't have a win, they have no reason to not absolutely send it with 5 to go.
Yeah. And that's probably what we're going to see. It's going to be anybody's race at that point. So, who did you pick? Duranco. I picked Dan. Keith. Oh, let me cover this real quick. The reason Lucas had to leave is he had a family emergency. Sorry.
Yep.
I thought Worthington was a good pick. Just because of the couple money races we ran recently at plate tracks, and he's been really good. And
he's with his teammates, he's just a likable old shit that I wouldn't mind pushing either.
Well, see, god dang, I don't want to be that guy.
Be that guy. Be it.
And
You're going
You
to
are
pick Peyton.
you are that
No.
guy.
no, I'm honestly, I'm not even going to pick Jeremy or Peyton. Just because looking at the numbers, with teammates plate racing. But I
I
don't want to be that guy by picking another flex guy.
I see. I know it's coming, and it rhymes with schmobby schmall.
You know what? I'm going to flip the script. I'm going Wes Wiggin.
Still flex member.
Man,
Yeah.
flex gang, let's go.
So I do have a question for you, Keith. Why did you choose to use your races down for anything but this race to help your teammates?
Because they was already in.
Okay, wondering if they weren't already in, were you going to use this race to push?
Probably.
Okay,
Probably.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might have a fifth flex guy, or I guess a sixth, depending on if Justin's there. But might have a certain pal of mine come down.
So that puts us over to Xfinity picks. Points over there are tight as can be. Also, honestly, all the way from 10th till 7th, 11th, 18th. It's still 18th or 11th. It's insane how tight those points are, man. Like less, 18th was a 70 points separate 9th and 18th. So 11th is 469 to 411. 58 points a lot of shaking and baking can be done right there between Justin Ray, Tyler Evans, Brad Gebhardt, Jason Harrison, Tony Iverson, Sean Kostritza. So Tony's not safe yet either. That's the thing. Tony's not safe. Tony Iverson, Ti, our boy, he was supposed to have been on here with us, but we had a few things happen, a few hiccups this week. Obviously, Harrison, he's safe. He's in. I think it's going to come from. I don't even know where it's going to come from. To be honest with you.
Well, my pick for Xfinity, I'm going to do everything in my power to make this happen, and that's get Radburn a damn win. If I'm behind him, I'm not going to try to win that race. I'm going to blow my damn car up just to try to push him across that line.
Yeah, he needs
What
one.
What a good guy.
I think it's going to be Fritz. I think Scott Fritz is going to get it done. I don't know if he's going to have the team to get it done. I don't know who's racing down with him this week, but I'm sure he'll have some people coming to help him.
All right. So it's back to me.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take Tony. Tony Iverson. Yep.
Sounds like a win.
I'm feeling pretty. At first I wanted to go fanboy. I wanted to take Michael again. I'm gonna save that for the playoffs.
Gotcha.
So it's Tony time.
All right, and that puts us up to the Cup Series. This one, dude, I don't have a clue. This one is
this is probably the wildest one.
This
in
one,
my
there's
opinion.
the points are even closer in this one.
Yep.
And I don't even know. I really don't know. Like looking at the points, you're right outside there. You're on the bubble with Twitty, and you're at 399. Twitty's at 403. Then it goes to Kostritza's at 429. Bridges at 430. You've got Rocky and Peters and Winners. All three have wins. They're all, as long as they make it next week, they're all in still. I don't know. This is a tough one, man, because looking at the points, who's not safe? Farmer's not safe. Robertson's not safe. Bridges, Kostritza, Twitty. So as of right now, Robertson is the bubble man.
Yep.
So Dave got a little breathing room this week with Brandon missing and taking a provisional. That put Brandon at 452 and Dave is at 463. So Dave's got some breathing room. Not a lot, but some.
Yep.
But Bridges, Kostritza, and Twitty, they're going to have to pull something off to grab a win. And even yourself, they make it in. And then you've got Dustin Reinsettle, who has to get a win.
And on back from there, you could go
Fritz,
Brian Terry, Blake Hensley, Fritz. I mean,
a lot of guys still
Yep.
looking to get their way in there. So I don't know, man. I think it's going to be one of the. It's either going to be one of Mikey, Huffman, Farmer, Fritz, some of those, like, or it's going to be a cornerstone guy. I feel like, I don't know, because even Shorts and Holder are good there, and so I don't know, man. It's going to be tough. This one is a
you got to pick one though.
This one is a literal crapshoot.
You got to pick it though.
I don't even know.
You have to. It's the law, or I get to shoot you.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be Fritz. I guess I'm gonna go Fritz again. I'm gonna go with Fritz again on this one, man. I feel like he's gonna try to get a win any way possible in Xfinity and Cup both.
Fritz again. Keith, you or me first?
I still haven't made a decision.
All right. So I'm between two people, but when I look up into the stars, it's my time to shine.
Gonna pick yourself, eh?
I'm gonna pick myself. I mean, it's as good of a chance as anybody. I wanted to pick Brandon. I know that he's better on the long race strategy than I am.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm a little more aggressive, probably to my detriment at times.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in a race like this, it might serve me better.
Yeah.
So what do I have to lose if I wreck? So what? So you better believe if it's time to go 3 wide, I'll be there.
I'm stuck between two guys as well. I mean, I could be biased and pick a cornerstone guy.
Yeah.
Just because we do have numbers with the weaponized as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's very easy to pick that. But I'm not.
Yeah, Flex got numbers coming, baby.
but I feel he's due. He's been getting better and better every week. Granted, he's made some mistakes, but hell, we all do. He runs with my guys in the Discord for the Chuck series, and I'm picking Kastritza.
That's a good pick, man. That's a very good pick. Sean's
solid. And I feel like I end up racing his ass in every Cup race at some point. We just always end up around each other.
Yep.
So I can't wait to wreck him so your pick doesn't make it. It's all your fault.
Well, I can't wait to see both of us on our lids at the same time, because it's probably gonna happen.
I almost guarantee it. And then fucking I don't know whatever random dude shows up.
I hear there's a lot of people racing up this week. A lot of people racing up because it's Daytona, and then you've got a lot of guys that are going to race down, and then you've got some other guys wanting to come race. So it's untelling what's going to happen, man. To be honest with you,
I'd probably just be as well off picking CJ Mason to come back this week and win the race.
Blink and all.
Probably not CJ. He probably won't be there, but
yeah. But if he is,
a lot of other guys will be there, I'm sure, that are still running all in the other series.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
All right. I think it's about that time to say thank you to our sponsors and kick us out of here, man. If you want to take us off, you've been doing it the last few weeks and doing a hell of a job at it. So let her roll, Playboy.
I'll keep trying to do my best. So shouts out to the KPG, the Kinder Performance Group. John Kinder, he's Cup Series guy. Run against him all the time. We kind of end up against each other. Shout out to him for supporting the league. I know he's one of the OGs. Been here from day one. These are the kinds of guys that we love to have in the league. I love that he's still here, and just great that he's here. Whatever. Moving on. Huffman Designs and Scott Fritz Designs. You tell me who's better. If you need a paint scheme, hit one of them up. I know Jason's maybe said something one time who's better than the other, but maybe I'll pay each of them $20 and I'll give them the same prompt and see who gives me a better design and see who blows me off because they've both hated me at different times. Butt kicker. They're like mystical. They'll shake that ass for you. Pay $100-$200. They'll shake the rig. When mine is actually working, it's no fault of butt kickers, but it adds an entire additional dimension to your iRacing with tire slip. I can't recommend it enough. Red Rocket Buildings and Barbecue. I've not had any of their products personally, but I'll tell you what, I love barbecue, and by God, I love buildings because I'm in one right now. Elevated Outdoors. I have no idea what they do, and I'll do homework before the next podcast. But like I've said before, I love getting high outside. And that's maybe what they provide, but probably not. Last and most certainly not least, WJM. They're out there sponsoring dudes left and right across the iRacing. I might run some Folds of Honor stuff for them, but I know Roger Pierce, Cody Anderson, those guys are killing it. Bill, I don't know if it's Molefield? Okay.
Yes.
Molefield. I'm going to say his name both ways every time. But either way, big supporters of the series, multiple drivers in the series. They're out there doing their things, and officials sponsoring guys. You don't find that kind of support on iRacing just everywhere you go. So big shout out to those guys. And last, yep, I got it. I see it. MH Lens. That's Keith or NH Lens. He typed MH, but it's NH. He typoed his own damn shit. I don't care. $50 to the winner of all races if you can win all three at Daytona. If you're the super speedway master, if you are Dale Earnhardt Jr., if you're not Dale Earnhardt Sr., you'll live through all of the races because you don't wear open face helmets. This man will give you $50. And they're shaking their heads, but that's how I'm going to send you off. I'm Alex. That's Jason. That's Keith. We love to talk. We'll holler at you next week.
Later.